Good evening and welcome to the Newshour Agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, today a tragic crash has claimed the life of Maharashtra's sitting Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar. 4 others on board the ill-fated flight were also killed, and the wreckage left behind was reduced to charred remains. Even Ajit Pawar's body was identified by his watch, which coincidentally is also his party symbol. But the big question tonight is, could this crash have been prevented? The Learjet 45XR has a turbulent history. In June 2023, in fact, there was, of course, a number of such incidents that have taken place as far as this incident is concerned. We'll be breaking this down and bringing to you what really has happened in the past and why we are saying that all authorities concerned could have pulled up their socks. Perhaps there is a lot more in terms of aviation safety that could have been done as far as this particular case is concerned. And that's why we're going to tell you about what really has transpired in this case and why this is very significant. Let's quickly take you through some fresh footage that has come in as far as this particular aspect is concerned. Now, this is the latest footage that has come in of this particular aircraft's last moment. Just look at this, where the plane appears to be stable at this point of time. Now, notice how the movement changes. It starts descending at a very high speed, and the plane, in fact, then banks to one side as well, after which, of course, we can see how it descends at a very high speed, and following which, of course, it will then start descending as well. Let's quickly bring you the next set of images as far as this plane is concerned. It is now appearing to lose control. It's banking heavily to one side, and you can see how it has suddenly changed from being sort of parallel to the ground to being perpendicular. It is completely tilted to one side. Was this an attempt at turning around the aircraft, or has the pilot lost control of the aircraft? These are questions that appear really to the mind when seeing these particular visuals of what has transpired in Baramati. And then, of course, it has suddenly then, right after turning, crashed into the ground, and then you can see the ball of fire that emerges just a few seconds later at the very same spot. So serious questions about what these last moments really reveal. We'll be taking across, in fact, to our...
You're watching the News Hour at 10. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our panelists. Professor Jyotsna Tirunagiri, National Spokesperson of TDP, is with us. We have Dr. Sumit Sushilan, AAC member, Ministry of Civil Aviation and Chairman of Divine Air. We also have with us on the show Captain Amit Singh, aviation expert and founder of Safety Matters Foundation. JS Rawat is a former Joint Director General of DGCA. Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, is also with us on the show. Let me start with you first and foremost. Captain Amit Singh, judging by this fresh footage that has come in, where you see the aircraft, it is, it appears to be on course. Suddenly it tilts drastically, and soon after it tilts, it has lost its the height that it's at, and it suddenly descends rapidly. What are we to make of this particular situation? What could be the possibilities of such a situation happening?
Well, there's a high possibility of a technical failure and a pilot action on that. If you see the wreckage, the tail portion, the rudder is deflected fully towards the left. A full left deflection, which means that in air also a similar situation would have been there, wherein the rudder would have been deflected to the left. A left deflection would cause the right wing to rise, and that could be the possibility of the situation that you see. A similar situation happened long time back at Delhi airport with the Sahara 737, in which they were simulating an engine failure, and they basically pushed the wrong rudder. So that aggravated the roll, and the aircraft came down crashing into one of the hangars. So this kind of a bank cannot happen purely because of a failure, but it could be aggravated by an input from an automation or the pilot, whatever it be. But certainly there is a technical issue along with it.
All right. In fact, let me bring in Mr. JS Rawat. Mr. JS Rawat, you have, of course, served in the DGCA. How do you analyze this particular footage? What are we to make of it?
This basically this footage is saying that aircraft is level, then it suddenly turned left. What it seems to me right now, it is my assessment only, that aircraft was 300 to 400 feet above the ground at this point of time. And it was actually, as the information has come, that he has said that he has got the runway in sight. Probably it is a moment where he has sighted the runway and tried to align with the runway by turning a left turn. Okay, then because it was close to the runway at that point of time, so he has taken the very sharp turn, and in this process he could not control the aircraft. That is a possibility, and that looks like.
Which ties in with the theory that perhaps there were some visibility issues because of the morning sun flying into the satellite, etc., that we have been discussing as well. There's a breaking news coming in. The Learjet's black box has now been recovered, and perhaps now we will have clarity in terms of what really has transpired. But I want to quickly open this up to our guests and look at some of the other aspects. Now, Dr. Sumit Sushilan, one of the things that we are talking about aviation safety. In the case of this particular aircraft and the company that has been running it, they had another accident in the same model of aircraft, a Learjet, in the year 2023, September. But, there are serious questions and concerns about safety because that report, a preliminary report which was scheduled to have come out, normally should come out within a span of a year. It's 2 years plus. The preliminary report came, but the final report never came. How are we going to improve our aviation? And why do we have an AIB if it can't even provide us reports in time?
No, we after the incident, we had taken off from Hyderabad because I was with the DG of AIB in Hyderabad, and they suddenly taken off and they already went to the site. And definitely the discussion regarding the reports, normally the entire report have to come within a year time. And parallelly, we have committees who are looking into similar issues. Like as you said, this is a business jet segment, which doesn't come under the commercial category. There's a totally different department nowadays who are heading this thing. So I think definitely the inquiry will come up in this thing.
Does that justify 2 years delay, sir?
No, definitely it's not justified the 2 years delay because now there's a protocol that within 1 year we will get the reports completely.
So the report, if somebody is violating the protocol, then who is going to be penalized for it?
No one is violating a protocol. Now the Navy policy keeps updating. So now within a year we are expecting according to the new policy, the reports will come out.
Is this not a violation of the protocol, Mr. Rawat? What exactly is happening? Because we have a dedicated body. Earlier, DGCA used to investigate all these accidents. Now you have an AIB. Still reports are delayed. What's going on?
Because earlier when the DGCA, when this investigation was carried out, the rule itself has provision that within 6 to 8 months the final report has to come. If the final report is not prepared during that period of time, they used to seek the extension from the government. Okay, we require so much because of this much is investigation pending, and we require further period for the investigation. Now there is no such provision. I don't think I have not seen any provision in the present aircraft AIB rules. There is a time limit. So as you are mentioning that the protocol of the time limit, there is no protocol actually for submitting the final report.
Right. Now, there are also questions being raised, Captain Amit Singh. Before I go across to our political panelists, Captain Amit Singh, quick word on the issue of the pilot himself. Was the pilot fit to fly is the question, because there are 2 violations of breath analysis test which he has failed. Now, I don't know if it is material to today's test, but this is the background of this individual. How much of this will actually play a role as far as the investigators are concerned is a big question. Because clearly a person who has been suspended for 3 years, flying this particular aircraft, what were the circumstances in which he was allowed to fly again? Were all the protocols and the testing, etc. followed? All of this will certainly be a subject matter of the investigation. Captain Amit Singh.
Surely the entire training record will be pulled out, each and every incident, and such training issues will be analyzed. But the point is that should a person with such a history be given the charge of an aircraft flying a deputy CM or a VVIP? So is there any certain standards which have to be maintained, higher standards or higher level of training? Because if you have to fly to such airfields where your visual marking is not there, visual aids are not there, landing aids are not there. So there has to be something. If these aircrafts are high-tech aircrafts, we do not have simulators in India. So they have to go abroad and train. Obviously, the companies will avoid spending extra time on training. So they will do the basic minimum. So who's monitoring all that? So is there a need for a separate standard or a document for VVIP flying? Like for helicopters, when there were a large number of helicopter accidents and VVIP. So there were certain circulars, but the circular is not enough. There has to be a certain separate standard for that.
Let me bring in Professor Jyotsna Tirunagiri on that. Jyotsna Tirunagiri, the question of this particular pilot itself, that is one question. Why should he be flying somebody as important as a Deputy Chief Minister of a state? And in fact, if this is the safety violation that is happening in the case of a Deputy CM, then how safe are citizens is an obvious question. But there's also another question that is related to this, that this is an uncontrolled airfield where the traffic information is provided by the flying school concerned. There's not even a basic ATC facility. Now, in today's India, if we are the third biggest aviation market in the world, one would expect that basic aviation facilities would be provided.
Yes, Madhavji. First of all, very unfortunate incident early in the morning, and all of us are as shocked as everybody else. The point is, right questions posed by you, yes, but we also have to understand that there is a lot been happening in the sector in the recent times, but still we have a lot, I think a long way to go, very long way to go. So especially when it comes to certain things like passenger safety norms, we tried to get some norms. There was some issue with some of the airlines. We tried to, get them on board yet, and then one airline didn't comply, and then we went a little hard on them. So things are going on in a very, very, I would say, stepwise manner. But yes, with regard to the pilot, I don't want to comment on it before the further investigation comes out, Madhavji. But yes, definitely we need more, I think, proactive approach in the industry now.
All right, Tehseen Purawala, your response to that? The government admits that there is need for a more proactive approach, but in today's India, we have airports such as this. Of course, it's an airstrip that was further broadened after an incident took place at the same area. Yet you have a situation where you have a Deputy Chief Minister's aircraft landing, and all of this is at the mercy of the flying school concern.
Madhav, at the onset, let me extend my deepest condolences to the Pawar family, to all their supporters, well-wishers, voters, and people of Baramati, my hometown of Pune, etc. I am very close to Ajit Pawar G's kids, so it is in that sense a personal loss, and I'm leaving for Baramati after your show for the funeral tomorrow. Just two things. Let me not make this political and give data. Over the last 5 years, we've had 53 plane crashes and chopper crashes in India. Over 320 Indian citizens have lost their lives, and this does not include Ajit Pawar G's air crash for today. This is the third largest aviation sector in the world, and yet DGCA does nothing, does not release reports. Reports are not come on time, and there is no action. We have a Nepo kid as a civil aviation minister who's snoozing, who does absolutely nothing. We've been criticizing the DGCA and the civil aviation ministry with the Indigo fiasco, the fiasco before that. 6 months ago, 6 choppers crashed in Uttarakhand, and there was no accountability. Accountability is zero with this Nepo kid as the civil aviation minister, DGCA and the AIB. What we need to do, this is what we need to do. In 2012-13, parliamentary committees cleared a bill called the CAA bill, which would make DGCA an independent body. While it would still technically be under the civil aviation ministry, which it is now, it would be financially independent, and the people serving on the DGCA would not be volunteers, but would be paid professionals. We need to bring this in to bring in accountability. Right now, what happens, and with due respect, friends who own civil aviation companies, etc., are volunteering to serve on DGCA, and therefore there is a nexus. We saw that again in the case of Indigo, and therefore we need professionalism. India cannot grow without the aviation sector. We are duty bound to keep our citizens free. This is not about a VIP. This is about every Indian. Can I have the reports of what happened in Uttarakhand about those chopper crashes? Can I have the reports about what happened in Gujarat? None of these reports are given to us. They are not made public, and we are told there'll be an investigation, and that's under the table. That is the problem.
Professor Jyotsna, please answer that, because he has asked a pointed question to your party's minister, who is there as a civil aviation minister. Respond to that.
See, I would leave to his probably analysis when he calls him a Nepo kid and things like that. So I think he should think before he uses a word there. But anyways, I would say, Madhavji, first and foremost, as I said, the ministry, we are also forgetting that in the entire world, ours is probably one of those very few countries, one amongst the 3 or 4 countries which handles aviation at this level. We have almost 5 lakh travelers, passengers traveling every single day, or almost 4,000 flights taking off and landing every single day. So we are trying to make things very, very, better, and we are trying to improve the standards day by day. So just merely passing statements doesn't make any sense. For example, the FGTL norms, we have made them mandatory. We have made, it was the
But that's
minister
after the courts
himself
came in,
who said
ma'am.
we cannot
For several
comment
years,
upon
those
it.
norms have been suspended. And let me ask Mr. Rawat this question. Mr. Rawat, who has actually been responsible for the FDTL norms being implemented? Of course, it's the DGCA that implemented it, and of course, it's under this government's aegis. But just look at the fiasco that transpired, and would this have been possible without the court's intervention? And also answer Tehseen's question. He says it's high time we have professional regulators who are independent of government control. As someone who served in DGCA, is that a valid suggestion? Should we have professionals who are paid at the technical know-how rates, at the rates that, other aviation professionals get? Perhaps our regulators should also be compensated and build a professional regulatory force that's completely free from all kinds of political control.
The idea of making the Civil Aviation Authority is to have the professional in the field, because right now what is happening in the DGC, everybody is government servant, and basically it is to bring the this cream from the industry by paying them the higher remuneration. If a person is the industry, if suppose you want to bring in the pilot, his salary is 10 lakhs or 8 lakhs. So DGCA cannot pay that. Of course, the DGCA has made some provision as a temporary payment of that thing, by they are paying them the this thing, what do you call advance
compensation. But that's a global practice, isn't it? This is the global practice where you have professionals who are paid the market rates.
In the other areas also. It is not the thing in the airworthiness, in the ATC also, and you have to bring the professional from the industry by giving them the higher salary. Right. Which is possible only in the Civil Aviation Authority, not in the government setup.
Yes. So let me bring in Group Captain MJ Augustine on Vinod on that. He's joining us on the show. He's a former MiG-21 pilot. Group Captain, is this not a fair suggestion? And the Civil Aviation Authority proposal has been hanging fire for decades now, one can say. It is a very serious requirement because you have a huge disparity of salaries, which can lead to all kinds of incongruencies. You can lead to all kinds of incompetencies and even, who knows, corruption. There have been such reports that have come out in the past as well, Group Captain.
Absolutely, Madhav, and thank you for having me on the show. And I saw the video very closely that when I was following you for last 7-8 minutes, 10 minutes. To me, it appears, let's talk about the accident per se initially. To me, it appears to be an aerodynamic stall. So all that bad weather, conspiracy theories, etc., is out of the window. And I'm sticking my neck out and saying this because I'm also the current DGCA, AIB, the subject matter expert. Whenever AIB wants, they can co-opt me for accident investigation. I'm a trained accident investigator. I've done umpteen number of accidents, including few fatal accidents. So that is the background I'm saying this. Now let's come to the question that you asked. See, two things, Madhav. One is to get, like the previous speaker was saying, that to get a professional, you need to, or if I were to use the English adage, if you pay peanuts, you'll get monkeys. So that is not what we want. We want professionals in the field and professionals who have no skin in the game. That, quote unquote, is what you're talking about willy-nilly, Madhav. I should not have, if I am coming on board into accident investigation, I should not have my skin in the game at all. Then only I'll be completely unbiased towards my job, A. B, I should be a go-getter. And I'm completely with Tehseen on this, except for the Nepo kid word that he used, and completely with Tehseen on this, that there has to be an accountability.
Okay.
You cannot linger on reports and not submit it, not table it. It is not done. It is harakiri. And this is exactly what is going to happen if you do not hold people accountable.
We have to certainly hold people accountable. I think that's the bottom line coming in, a consensus that is evolving, but will the government act? Now, let's quickly take you through another set of documents that we have accessed. We've accessed this exclusive report of ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, which has raised serious concerns about India's airports. 10 out of 12 were flagged as high risk, and the agency had then recommended runway safety arrestor systems to actually be put in place to prevent overruns. Yet, several years on, their installation remains stalled. These systems have been proven to save lives in the past. They have prevented accidents. They've also protected government assets. Now, these warnings have been very clear. The question now is, were they ignored? Because the need for a safety zone that has to be constructed beyond the runway surface, particularly in tabletop runways, such as in Baramati, such as we have seen in Mangalore and Kozhikode, where there have been serious crashes, they can drastically reduce the damage in the event, of course, of an overrun. It's not exactly an overrun that has happened here, but it is a tabletop runway, which is why we are raising this issue. International standards require a minimum RESA length of 240 meters for long runways and 120 meters for shorter runways. However, at tabletop runways and space-constrained airports, where these standards can't be met, ICAO has recognized them as a requirement, particularly of other technologies such as EMAS, as being critical and effective for this safety. Now, let's take a look at what exactly is it that this EMAS system that can be put in place as far as our tabletop runways are concerned. Engineered materials arresting systems needed at those locations where runway safety areas are limited, where runways pose higher operational risk, and where tabletop runways leave little margin for error, and they are designed to stop an aircraft within a short span, even if it overshoots this particular runway and enters this particular area, because the RESA that is suggested is double of the width of the runway itself. It's not practically possible to build that, particularly within cities, but at the same time saving human lives and protecting these assets and airport infrastructures, very, very important. In fact, Times Now has accessed details of a 2015 meeting between top officials of the DGCA and the Airports Authority of India. This document reveals that what transpired at the high-level meeting, where the proposal for introducing the EMAS facility for Mangaluru's tabletop runway was considered. The proposal, however, was rejected in the same meeting and was considered operationally not viable. Let's quickly take this across to Arunil. Arunil, back and forth, we see suggestions coming in, and then we see these suggestions being rejected due to multiplicity of reasons. What exactly is this technology and how can it help? Explain to our viewers.
Well, Madhav, first it was the Mangalore fatal crash, then which was again a tabletop airstrip. Then it was followed by Kozhikode. These tabletop mountains, tabletop airstrips have been notorious for such kind of fatal accidents with respect to aircrafts. Time and again, we have seen series of meetings have been held between ICAO, be it the DGCA, be it the Airport Authority of India as well. Several such guidelines, safety measures have been suggested in these meetings, be it RESA that you were talking about, or be it the new technology that is EMAS that you've been speaking about. But why these technologies have not been implemented on the ground, despite series of meetings being held since more than a decade now, 2 fatal accidents being taken place, and this is the 3rd such accident involving a tabletop airstrip itself. Here as well, we have always seen with respect to tabletop airstrips, which are basically are placed on a plateau, high plateau, and followed and covered with a valley. What is being seen is an optical illusion is created in the eyes of the pilot in command, and that basically the airstrip appears closer than it is actually from the pilot.
Okay, has that happened in this case? We don't know if there was actually an optical illusion, whether visibility was an issue, but if these technologies can save lives, is there some reason that they are not being implemented? And let's quickly tell you why this is also important, because there are access reports where, in fact, the government of India itself has said that runway excursions remain a major safety concern in India, especially during monsoons. Times Now has learned that between 2009 and 2022, 41% of commercial aircraft accidents in India were linked to runway excursions, over 33% caused by unstabilized approaches that continued to land, resulting in 2 fatal accidents and 179 deaths. Globally, IATA reports that runway excursions accounted for 24% of accidents between 2017 and 2021, mostly during landing, with Asia Pacific recording the highest risk. Let's take this across to Isha. Isha, this is very important because this kind of a technology, particularly for tabletop and other areas where space constraints are there, it's very, very significant. And if 41% of accidents are happening because of runway excursions, then this is something that all in the government, including those in far as the regulators are concerned, should very seriously consider.
Right.
right, Madhav, absolutely. In fact, the paper that you just read out, the excerpts of which you read out, is presented by India in a conference. So it's not like that we were caught off guard. It is not like the DGC and the other authorities were not aware that runway excursions have led to fatal accidents. In fact, like Arunil was also pointing out, this was a tabletop runway. A tabletop runway is where the scope of error is also extremely less. There is no automated system for landing. So essentially, a pilot has to use his or her skills to ascertain if it is safe for landing. In fact, in this particular case as well, the first time the pilot could not land, and the second led to a fatal accident, which has resulted in the death of the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra.
Right.
In fact, when we see this particular report, we also see that there are several other issues that have been flagged, and it's something that India was well aware about. So definitely.
Yes. So why is it that action has not been taken? Isha and Arun, like to thank you both for your inputs on this. Let me go right back to Captain Amit Singh. Captain Amit Singh, I understand that these technologies are very expensive. But, you know, when it comes to our life, when it comes to the tabletop runways, because of the peculiar terrain, isn't it the duty of the operators, whoever they are, whether it's private, public, to ensure that there are these safety systems in place? And, you know, if the RESA norms are not being followed, then surely this is the next best option and it should be implemented.
Well, in India, exemption has become a norm. For everything, there is an exemption. The graphic you showed you, I'd like to correct that RESA is not only for overshoot, RESA is also for undershoot.
Yes.
Like in Calicut, what is now missing is the undershoot area. If an aircraft, for example, in this case, was undershooting, and you have heard about the British Airways landing in Heathrow before the runway because of fuel issues. So to cater for those eventualities, the undershoot area also has to be 240 meters or 90 meters as the overshoot area. On the side also there has to be. Like Calicut, on the sides, exemption has been given for the beginning, exemption has been given rather than shortening the runway and catering for safety margins. So these kinds of exemptions have now become a norm. Bombay obstructions have been given exemptions. The new Bombay airport, obstacles have come up even before the airport could be built. So these are the basic issues. This EMAS was proposed. After the Calicut accident, the reply of the minister was, in case of damage to the EMAS, the cost of repair would be very high. So we will not install EMAS. It is like, I will not wear a seat belt because of wear and tear, the cost of replacement of the seat belt is very high. So I will not wear a seat belt. So that's
actually very bizarre. And you know, Mr. J.S. Rawat, you've served in DGC, and I believe you have been part of those negotiations as well. Why would we not have a basic safety, infrastructure in place if it can actually save lives?
When this runway was commissioned at Mangalore and Calicut, so for Mangalore particularly, we have asked to have the arresting system by putting the sandbags, which is already prevailing in the most of the defense airfield. The proposal has come for the putting the EMAS there. If the EMAS has to put, you have to put the EMAS as per the standard given by the FAA. Then it was going to substantially reduce the length of the runway, because the EMAS was going to not to be started from the end of the runway as on today. It was supposed to take some portion of the runway, because you have to take the width on both the sides. So runway was going to be affected. So it was basically going to reduce the length of the runway, usable length of the runway. So that's why it was not. It was basically doing the negative thing instead of giving the.
But everywhere in all the tabletop runways, it could not be implemented.
No. Because if you have got the space, because you have to cover the width also as well as the length also. So in the Calicut, in the particular case of Calicut and Mangalore, that width is not available. You have to reduce the length of the runway. Only then you can put the EMAS there.
Okay. Group Captain Augustine Vinod, what do you make of this argument that the length of the runway would have been reduced and therefore it was not implemented?
As far as I know, most runways today, whether tabletop or not, the RESA is available. And how have we made the RESA available? Is by reducing the length of the runway, saying that last 90 meters will be RESA. So when you do landing calculations, now with RISA being there, the length of the runway has been reduced, shortened by 90 meters, which in day-to-day operations does not really matter because the margin, even after you stop the
Isn't that what Captain Amit
is
Singh just said?
adequate.
That the dispensation has become the norm. You know, in certain space-constrained airports such as Mumbai, Patna, that is already the norm. But why should that be the norm across this country?
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with this accident. I mean, if you are discussing this accident, whether RISA, EMAS, and all those things have absolutely nothing to do with the accident at all. This accident is a VFR runway. So the question that, Mother, we should be asking is, why not make this instrumented runway, which Sri Ajit Pawar has been asking for a long time, installing an ILS, that is instrumented landing system, or at least a ground-based augmentation system and using GPS and putting there's something called RNP. So required navigation performance, RNP approaches. RNP approaches may not be as good as ILS, but equally good. So it is an instrumented landing system that could have been installed. And installing RNP, Mother, believe you me, is a few $1,000s. I mean, it is as simple as that. Making out a procedure and setting up a ground-based system. That is
Dr. Sumit Sushilan, if it's just a matter of $2,000 and it could have saved so many lives, why wasn't it in place in the first place?
Madhav, we have to understand this airport, the Baramati, Nasik, Shirdi airport come under MADC, the Maharashtra Airport Development Corporation. All the budgets, everything comes from the Maharashtra state government itself. We don't have to do anything with this thing because the DGCA, make the policies. They make the policies and the state government who are taking care of these airports, they do spend on it. And recently only they had did an extension of this runway also. And this airport is not a scheduled airport. There is no commercial airline operation in this airport. This airport is basically used for flying training organization for FTU purpose only. So
Mr.
now,
Sumit Sushilan, my simple question is this. I am not saying that you are running this airport, but surely as DGCA, you are the custodian of the safety standards of the entire country. The Ministry of Civil Aviation has a jurisdiction over airports anywhere in India. So therefore, the minimum safety standards, whether it's an ILS system or some other system, can very easily be enforced by the DGCA. You can direct the Maharashtra authority, which is running this particular airport, to get that system in place. Why has that not been done?
The policy is already passed. The state government already is working on that part. So now this part comes under the Maharashtra government. They are working on installing all the instruments in this thing. And definitely the DGCA do audits on that. But definitely it takes time for them to know. They always ask time. So
Maharashtra government is working on this. Tehseen, do you buy that argument?
Madhav, in the next few years, we'll have 300 plus airports in our country. We're the third largest aviation market and 2,000 plus aircrafts. The DGC is responsible for our safety. It's almost like the RBI saying, so what if it's a bank run in some state in the country? If people's money go, depositors' money, we are going to take our hands off. The DGC has a lot of power. It can ask the state government if it doesn't implement basic safety, it won't allow the airport to operate. It won't allow that runway to operate. It does have those powers. It can make it mandatory. But the fact of the matter is that it hasn't done this. It's proved to be toothless and it's allowed lives to be lost. 14% increase in air crash accidents in the last 3 years and no reports out. Who is accountable for that? As a layman Indian, I'm asking this question.
Who is accountable? Would you like to respond to that, Professor Jyotsna?
Definitely, Madhavji, definitely accountability has to be fixed. There is no doubt about it. That's the reason investigations and inquiries happen. And yes, as rightly pointed out, reports should be out in time. I think first and foremost, we have to make sure that happens. And definitely one more thing that I would, probably it might not sound well, but Madhav, the point is, every time an incident happens, especially when it is happening with the aviation sector, somehow or the other, the fingers have been pointed at one or two individuals. But the point of thing there is, how much have we improved and how far we have to go further. So let's do that analysis as well. And every time, definitely we have to improve a lot, and that's what I've been saying. And a point taken from, I think Poonam Singh allies, yes, I think the board that you were talking about, they should be more professionals. so that technical aspects are taken into consideration. I buy that argument, Madhav.
Let
There's
me
no
get.
doubt.
We have many experts here who can tell us whether the situation is improving or it's getting worse. Captain Amit Singh, has the situation improved or has it got worse?
Well, the scatter has become big. So you never know, next accident would be a helicopter accident or a flying school accident or a commercial, because it has been happening randomly. So nobody has a grip on on safety basically. So either you identify these are the top 5 areas that we need to work on, and then have a dedicated force working on it. So we are not able to identify because we can't investigate. We don't want to find the root cause. We just look at the proximate cause. The proximate cause is in most cases the pilot. So the pilot is blamed and the case is closed. If the root cause is found out, then the accident will not happen again. In the case of helicopters, the same issue: unregulated airfields, flying below minima, in the clouds. And here also, the airfield is not equipped with a basic instrument aid, landing aid, visual aid. The markings are poor. So that is across the board. You can have remote, you can use technology for remote ATC. ATC can be placed somewhere, but you can have remote ATC. You can have remote lighting. It happens everywhere. Australia doesn't have so many ATC officers. They are all operated remotely. But the infrastructure is good. Our foundation is not so good. That is the problem. We are always on stilts. When there's pressure on the system, collapses.
Okay, Tehsir wants to respond to. Yes, Tehsir.
No, not respond to you. Group Captain, I forgot to thank you for your services. So thank you for your services, Group Captain Vinod. Ma'am, I just want to ask you one question on this show. In Uttarakhand, there were 6 helicopter crashes last year, back to back, and a lot of Indians, Shraddhalus, lost their life. Can you today on Time Now tell us what happened? The owners of those companies still have not been arrested. The pilots were blamed. Every time there's a crash in our country, pilots are blamed for some reason or the other. Can you today tell the viewers of Times Now 6 chopper crashes in Uttarakhand, who took accountability? I'm not even going to previous governments. Tell me what your minister did, ma'am. Tell us what happened here. Who's arrested?
Professor Jyotsna.
They were fly-by-night operators.
See, the point, that's what I was trying to tell you. See, my point is very clear. When you say there were 6 accidents, I think I'll give you the report by tomorrow. Because you have asked me right now, so I will not have it right now in my hand because I've come to the show. Right, Poonam? So definitely I'll give you the report. I'll check with the ministry and get you back the report. My point is, yes, exactly what you're asking. There needs to be an accountability, and accountability has to be fixed.
But Professor Jyotsna, that's the point. The reports are not coming. The same Learjet 45XR, the same model of aircraft had a crash about, in September 2023. It's about 26 months since that crash happened. We still don't know what has happened. It cannot take 2 years for reports. A basic thing such as a report to come in. If you want to instruct people of what mistakes not to make, how will they learn if the reports don't come on time?
Madhavji, sorry for my bad throat, but yeah, definitely that's what I was trying to tell you also. Now this point is again taken, and definitely by tomorrow I think we'll get some update on that as well, and I would get back to you on that.
Let me bring in Group Captain Vinod on that. Group Captain Vinod, the point of the reports not coming on time is a very important one, because there are multiple cases. He's talking about accountability of the helicopter crashes. We began the show, and I think you came in a few minutes later with this entire point. How can it be that 2 years, 3 months later, we still don't have the final report? And if that is the case, when will we ever get to know what happened in the Air India crash next? That happened last year.
Madhav, very valid question. I'll flag 2 quick issues. Firstly, there is a serious requirement to get professionals into the fold of entire civil aviation ministry, including the DGCA, because we are seeing that in umpteen number of times we are faltering. We are not holding the line. We are faltering, and like Tehsir said, the rate at which we are increasing in terms of aerial footprint and air travel, our infrastructure, procedures, PBN procedures, RMP procedures are not catching up. Whether it is the DGCA or whether it is understaffing in DGCA, I really do not know. I'm not able to comment on that. But the fact still remains, like Captain Amit Singh said, you will not believe it, Madhav. I can switch on as a pilot. I can switch on and switch off a light from air on a runway, all by using radio telephony.
Absolutely. And that's the point he was making. He was just talking about that it's there in Australia. The technology exists. It's just a question of implementing and bringing it here to India. And the question is just this. If we are going to be the third largest aviation market, and if this can happen to a deputy chief minister, how safe are the common citizens of this country who are flying? That's a very, very important question that all of us as citizens need to ask. It doesn't matter about who's in government, who's outside, so on and so forth. But this is an issue that affects all of us as citizens. Aviation safety, there can be no compromises. Professor Jyotsna Tinogiri, Dr. Sumit Sushilan, Group Captain MJ Augustine Vinod, Captain Amit Singh, JS Rawat, Tehseen Poonawala, thanks so much for joining us this evening.